Hello, and welcome to the March Delegate Update. This month, we will be having a Delegate-at-Large quarterly meeting on March 25th. I have an update for you from the WEF Bylaws Subcommittee. The WEF bylaws were updated and improved in June 2020. Because of this, they're asking member associations to consider reviewing and revising their existing bylaws to ensure they're in harmony with the updated WEF bylaws. Please submit your member association bylaws to Kelsey, who will pass them along to the WEF Bylaws Subcommittee for review. The Bylaws Subcommittee will review and make recommendations to improve your bylaws within 60 days. When your amended bylaws are approved, please remember to submit your final documentation to WEF. Even if you are not amending your bylaws, please submit your most up-to-date information to WEF. And you can do this through Kelsey. If you have any questions, please contact Kelsey. Up next, we have a very powerful interview from Anthony Giovannone. I hope you enjoy.
He is a project manager with Black & Veatch in Chicago, Illinois. Anthony's home MA is IWEA, and as he will tell you, his OGMA is NOEA. And so we are grateful to have Anthony join us this month. Anthony, welcome.
Thanks, Steve. It's really great to be here, and I'm excited to get the conversation going.
Awesome. Well, let's roll. Tell us a little bit how you got into water.
Well, I'm gonna go all the way back, if that's okay with you. All the way back. So I was born in New York and moved as a young child to Cape Cod, Massachusetts. And so Cape Cod's sort of an interesting place. You know, it's surrounded by the Atlantic Ocean, completely surrounded by water. Yet all of the drinking water comes from a sole source aquifer. And so you can imagine with this sole source aquifer, there comes some issues. If the aquifer is contaminated, it affects the entire drinking water supply of Cape Cod. And there are some legacy contaminants there due to an Air Force base, as well as it's a rural area, so there's a lot of septic systems. So from a very young age, I became aware that water quality was an issue. I remember as a kid, having scares where they'd say, boil water alert, similar to what just happened down in Texas. Similar in that sense, but for a very different reason, right? And there were contaminants. In fact, at one point, they were very concerned because there was this, fire suppressant material being used and getting into the water, and they weren't sure what it was and what it meant. And that, of course, is PFAS, which is a big issue right now. So from a very young age, like I said, I found out water quality was an issue. Additionally, growing up on Cape Cod, you tend to do things like fishing and clamming and crabbing and all of those fun sea things. And I remember there were certain times of the year where the water quality was so bad you couldn't fish or you couldn't clam. And that sort of bothered me as a kid. And I said, I want to fix this. Somehow, although I was very interested in stormwater management, got involved in wastewater treatment, specifically nutrient removal. And now I work as a project manager for an engineering firm, doing what I love. So that's my story.
That's so great, though. I mean, just to hear you talk about sort of the intersectionality even of your personal life and your professional life and the love for water. That's something I want to explore with you a little bit. I mean, for many professionals, this intersection kind of between their personal life and their professional life, it comes up a lot. And it's coming up, I feel like, more and more as we get to know one another. And so do you see this in your career? Do you see this in your life, these intersections continuing to come up?
I do. And I think it would be good for me to explain a little bit how I got involved with WEF, if that's okay with you.
Yeah, please do.
And then go into how that's evolved and created this sort of intersection between my personal life and my private life. So at my first job, my boss, Sam Ledwell, who's a great guy, encouraged me to get involved in SYPC. And I sort of was in this weird mode where I was on the periphery, not really sure where I fit in. And I heard about the WEF Service Project. So 2013, went to the WEF Service Project. I had some of those really great folks that said, hey, you should get involved. People like Tim Moran and Haley Falconer, who you know well, Steve, who said, hey, why don't you get more involved? Why don't you do this? And eventually that led me to a point where I became the service project chair in 2017. And as you know, the service project is all about, solving a water problem and bringing, small water infrastructure to areas of need, which was a great way for me to explore my passion in stormwater, even though I was doing mostly, water infrastructure. But being able to share our knowledge about water and water quality with areas that really need it, and especially low income areas and maybe places where people otherwise wouldn't know about those things, was really great for me. So as I progressed my career through WEF, and I started getting involved in things like the House of Delegates, I started to see that there were a lot of people who were bringing their spouses along with them, or they were having meetings or dinners with their spouses and people they work with. And, I wasn't doing that.
Mm.
And my story, is very much my story. So it's not the same for everyone, but it's probably a little bit different than most. Outwardly, I look like maybe a stereotypical engineer, right? So, and, in fact, I'm a gay man. And so, I distinctly remember going to a job site early on in my career, and I was there with some folks, all men, and they were talking about their wives and their girlfriends, and just very normal conversation. And I remember thinking, please do not ask me about my wife or my girlfriend. And what do you think happened, right? Of course, hey, Anthony, I'm sure you have a girlfriend. You live in the city. How's it like living with your girlfriend in the city? And I'm pretty sure at the time I did have a partner, but I just kind of deflected. I was too nervous to say, well, actually, I have a boyfriend. And so for a long time, I've really kept my personal life private, and I did not allow my professional life and my personal life to intersect. And it's not something that I regret necessarily. But did it hold me back from making meaningful relationships? Absolutely, it did. So I guess the question is, how did I get from there to the point that I'm at now? And I think this is really important. So through my involvement with WEF, I met some really incredible people in the LGBTQ plus community. And going to things like WEF Max and WEF Tech, and seeing them there with their partners, and seeing everybody being so accepting and welcoming of them and their partners, and seeing them being able to enjoy these events with their partners just like everyone else was, really gave me the courage to open up about myself, allow my personal life into my professional life. In particular, introducing my family to my WEF family, which our WEF families are almost as important as our.
They're almost the same.
Almost. Yeah. And so, in fact, I'm pretty sure you're there. I one year I brought my partner to WEF Tech, and we had a great time, and he was able to meet a lot of people, and it really was an amazing thing. And I think it's important that, number one, we have these examples of people that are like you, whether it's if they look like you or they have the same, preferences that you have, and you see them, comfortable within our water sector community. And that gives you the courage to, follow their example.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Anthony, I so much appreciate your vulnerability in sharing that story. I'm so sorry that happened earlier in your career where you didn't feel like you could be vulnerable in that way, and you didn't feel like your preferences and who you are would be accepted by others. And I think you sharing that is so powerful for how we as a WEF community can really embrace inclusion in a very different way, and how just some of the ways that we use words or speak can often be off-putting or put people in a difficult position. So I know through a number of conversations you and I have had, I'm much more conscious of using the word partner over spouse or over girlfriend or wife, because I do think it's such a better inclusive word to open up the conversation. And so I have learned a great deal from you, and have so much respect and empathy for the situations that you've gone through and the challenges in your career. And I'm just so grateful you're a part of all the ways that we're changing here at WEF. So thank you. I mean, is there anything that you would do differently early in your career, or what advice would you give somebody early in their career about the water industry?
Yeah, so I think, getting involved in WEF and in your member association as soon as possible is really important. And something that I didn't really fully embrace or realize when I first started getting involved in WEF is that WEF is really WEF is a national platform for a number of member associations to not only get their agenda heard at a sort of a legislative type of level, but also to share ideas and help each other out. And those member associations are made up of members. And so really it's the members that drive the direction of WEF. And so it takes people like you and Nikita and others who are pushing initiatives, and Tom Kunins, Jackie Gerald, all of these really great, amazing people who are pushing initiatives like diversity, equity, and inclusion to get those types of initiatives moving forward. So my advice is don't hold yourself back. If you are passionate about something and it's not something that WEF is currently doing, but maybe they should be doing, get involved and make that happen. I think had I been more involved in WEF at an earlier age, I probably would have been more comfortable with myself. And not to say that I haven't progressed in my career well, but progressed with that intersection of private and professional life, perhaps with a little bit more ease.
Thank you for your authenticity and the person that you are, and I'm just so glad that you've chosen WEF as your second family to be a part of. And sometimes it becomes our first family, and we really do miss one another in this year that's been quite difficult. But so grateful to get back to where we're headed here with WEF Tech, and to be back in your home city of Chicago there. And just look forward to seeing you again soon. So thank you so much for joining our interview, and really appreciate everything you do. So thanks.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, Steve.